The man was trapped in the novice village for a full 20 years due to a system glitch. Every time he was about to reach level 5, the system would reset his level to 0. But the attribute points he gained from continuous leveling did not disappear. In 20 years he had been upgraded and reset over 1,000,000 times. His hidden attribute points were already comparable to that of a god. Now he had finally escaped the novice village, only to discover that it required 54.5 billion experience points to level up from 5 to 6. To gain experience he entered the portal, and ventured into a dungeon filled with monsters above level 30. However, as a level 5 he found these level 30 monsters to be as easy to defeat as cutting vegetables. He didn't even gain a shred of experience, so in anger he slaughtered all the millions of monsters in the dungeon. Just as he was about to leave in disappointment, he suddenly spotted a bracelet glowing with golden light. This was actually the magical core artifact supporting the dungeon, but Xiao Shuai was filled with doubt. Usually artifacts would be protected by powerful lords. He never expected that. A level 40 lord had already been defeated by him like a mere novice. The artifact's function was to allow the user to shout fireball, and launch a concentrated fireball cannon. Xiao Shuai, feeling quite self-important, put on the bracelet to test its power. He then struck a very classic pose, Kamehameha. At the same time he shouted fireball, but after many attempts there was still no effect. At this moment a notification appeared requiring level 31 to use. Xiao Shuai, still at level 5, expressionless, removed the bracelet. It turned out to be useless junk. He planned to find a place to sell it after getting out. Just then the entire dungeon suddenly shook violently. Following that, a basement entrance appeared before Xiao Shuai. Seeing this, Xiao Shuai's eyes lit up. Could there be a big boss hidden inside? He excitedly ran towards the basement. But upon arrival he found it to be completely empty. There was only a magical core for closing the dungeon, hovering there. Unexpectedly, just as Xiao Shuai reached out to touch the core, strange tentacles shot out from mid-air and bound him. Looking up he saw a giant eye staring at him. "LV, this guy should give me some experience, right?" At that moment a figure rushed in excitedly at the entrance. When Xiao Shuai saw who it was he was shocked. It turned out to be the guy with a middle part looking for healing eggs. As Xiao Shuai pondered how to hide his identity as a human, the middle part guy looked up and saw Xiao Shuai bound by the eye. He mistakenly thought Xiao Shuai was an illusion created by the Lord. After all, how could a level 5 newbie appear in the dungeon? It must be the control eye using his psychological shadow to create this illusion. Xiao Shuai, who was unsure of how to explain, grinned. Since the other party thinks he's an illusion, he might as well play along. But what Xiao Shuai never expected was that, ever since the middle part guy encountered the broken egg incident, his attack method had changed to an upward strike. He focused on demolishing people's altars. Xiao Shuai was startled and quickly squeezed his thighs, jumping up. However, he nearly crashed into the control eye. After landing, Xiao Shuai helplessly complained that this lord was too weak. At that moment the middle part guy seized the chance to slash at him with his sword. As the two engaged in a struggle, the middle part guy suddenly underwent a transformation. Upon closer inspection he was tightly bound by tentacles. It turned out that the control eye had taken control of him. Then the control eye manipulated him to attack Xiao Shuai. Seeing this, Xiao Shuai raised his great sword and did not plan to dodge. With a powerful swing he struck down. The entire hall shook violently. The sword cleaved the control eye and the hall in half. The dying control eye looked at Xiao Shuai in disbelief. It never expected that a level 5 newbie could cause such damage just with sword energy. Xiao Shuai, on the other hand, eagerly awaited the system to distribute experience points. But after waiting for a long time there was still no response. At that moment a worm suddenly emerged from the control eye. This was the true body of the Lord. It cautiously tried to sneak away from behind, but as soon as it burrowed out of its shell, Xiao Shuai flicked it away with a booger. Just then a notification sound from the system echoed. "Congratulations host, you have gained 110,000 experience points." Xiao Shuai instantly laughed like a fool upon hearing this. It only takes 2,000 experience points to level up from 5 to 6. With 110,000, wouldn't that mean he could level up several times? However, when he opened his level panel he was instantly petrified. Turned out it required 545 billion experience points to reach level 6. This news left Xiao Shuai looking utterly disheartened. What a scam this is. He was just a level 5 newbie player, who had ventured into a dungeon full of level 30 monsters and slaughtered them recklessly. Even the level 45 lord was cut in half by his sword. All because of a glitch in his system. Every time he was about to reach level 5, the system would glitch and reset him to level 1. But the attribute points he gained when leveling up were retained. After millions of upgrades and resets, his strength had become comparable to that of a god. After looting the dungeon, Xiao Shuai returned to Free City. The first thing he wanted to do was sell the relic bracelet. But just then a mysterious person suddenly set their sights on Xiao Shuai. He was the Inquisition tasked with eliminating Earthlings. Tall Xiao Shuai became his target for inspection. He quickly took out a testing card and shoved it into Xiao Shuai's hand. But the test results showed that Xiao Shuai was only level 5. The Inquisitor was incredulous. Could it be that he was mistaken? Xiao Shuai pretended to be calm and returned to trade with the pawnshop owner. Watching the Inquisitor's retreating figure, Xiao Shuai felt a wave of panic. It seemed there were advantages to being low level. If he had been discovered to be an Earthling just now, he would have become the enemy of the entire world. Unexpectedly at that moment the pawnshop owner discovered the relic bracelet in his package. He asked Xiao Shuai if he wanted to sell it. Seeing the Inquisitor still nearby, Xiao Shuai was alarmed. He quickly reached out to hide the bracelet. But in his nervousness he accidentally knocked the bracelet away. It rolled right to the feet of the Inquisitor. Seeing the Inquisitor bend down to pick up the bracelet, Xiao Shuai thought to himself that this was bad. The Inquisitor looked at Xiao Shuai with a dark expression. How could a level 5 newbie possess a relic? You need to give me a reasonable explanation. Xiao Shuai saw his identity as an Earthling about to be exposed. So he seized the moment and threw a punch at the Inquisitor. But just then Athos suddenly stepped in front of him. He took out a Dragon Hunter badge and handed it to the Inquisitor, claiming that the relic was something he had asked Xiao Shuai to sell. After verifying Athos's identity, the Inquisitor stated that everything was a misunderstanding. He then let the two of them leave. However, their suspicious demeanor still raised doubts. So the Inquisitor called them back, asking what the abilities of the relic bracelet were. Xiao Shuai blurted out Fireball, but Athos not in the know said it was lightning. The two, lacking a unified answer, instantly felt something was off. The Inquisitor raised his hand, releasing a hurricane cage to block them. Come with me, otherwise I will treat you as people who close the dungeon. Xiao Shuai instantly understood. The Inquisitor's true goal was to find the person who closed the dungeon. Thinking of this, he stepped forward to confess. But before he could speak, a voice like a dimwit came from the city gate. It was the middle part guy riding in a cart, bragging about his heroic journey through the dungeon. He spoke of successfully pulling out the core and closing the dungeon. He was directly taken back by the Inquisitor for interrogation. But after this incident, Xiao Shuai also knew well his identity as an Earthling could bring danger to those around him. So he bid farewell to Athos, and decided to travel alone to other towns in search of high-level monsters to level up. But 6 months later Athos found him again. He sincerely invited Xiao Shuai to team up. They were tasked with exploring the Cert forest to collect samples. Xiao Shuai, who didn't want to get involved with others, reluctantly agreed due to the favor he owed from before. The next day the two arrived at Cert forest. Along the way Athos continuously cast fire spells to clear out monsters. Xiao Shuai, once again playing the role of the bag carrier, was quite confused. Why did Athos insist on bringing along this level 5 newbie? Late at night they suddenly saw a strange village. After investigating they discovered that it had been occupied by monsters. Human was hanging in the air, his fate unknown. Athos immediately decided to enter the village to rescue him. Countless pairs of crimson eyes were staring at him from inside the houses. Without hesitation Athos cast a fireball, igniting a blazing fire. The raging flames shot up into the sky, instantly engulfing the houses. The monsters were forced out of the houses. With their mouths wide open they lunged at Athos. Athos sneered, taking out a magic wand from his pocket. With a deafening boom, an explosion rocked the area. Before long all the monsters were completely slaughtered. The two of them placed the hanging human on the ground, but they found that the person had already died. What was strange was that this body had been frozen to death by extremely low temperatures. It was clear that the wolf demons didn't possess such abilities. Just as they were puzzled, Xiao Shuai suddenly noticed that the dry well beneath them was glowing with an eerie blue light. He called Athos over and gently lifted the well cover. To their surprise, it was a hidden teleportation passage to an underground dungeon. They saw something floating inside. It seemed that this passage was in a closed state, yet the wolf demons clearly did not have the ability to open a passage. Could there be a more terrifying existence in the village? To prevent any accidents, the two decided to leave quickly. But just then, a bone-chilling cold wind mixed with snow suddenly struck. In the distance a strange figure slowly approached. Upon closer inspection it was a skeleton adorned with a large gold chain. This was an undead monster created by a wizard's voluntary sacrifice. A Lich King. A terrifying existence at level 72. This man had been trapped in the novice village for a full 20 years due to a system glitch. Every time he was about to level up to 5 and teleport away, the system would glitch and reset him to level 1. Fortunately, the attribute points gained during leveling up were retained. After millions of upgrades and resets over 20 years, his hidden attribute points had become comparable to that of a god. Now he had finally reached level 5 and escaped the novice village. But he unexpectedly encountered the strongest opponent ever. A Lich King at level 72. This was an undead monster created by a wizard's voluntary sacrifice, possessing immunity to all physical damage. A huge level difference instantly put Athos on high alert. He decided to do everything he could to block the Lich King. Athos gathered a fireball and shot it at the Lich. However, the Lich merely raised his hand and shattered the flames effortlessly. But what the Lich did not expect was that Athos had hidden a magic core within the fireball. It silently pierced into the Lich's body. With a loud explosion, chaos erupted. Athos grabbed Xiao Shuai and ran without looking back. He understood the damage the magic core could cause. At this moment, Xiao Shuai felt the blood in his body beginning to boil. This feeling was not fear, but an involuntary excitement upon encountering an opponent. Suddenly a massive wall of ice rose up, blocking their path. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge ice wall, trapping them inside. Now they had no way to escape. The terrifying low temperature froze even Athos's fire spells. They would soon be frozen to death. At that moment, the Lich slowly approached them. He was simultaneously controlling both ice and fire magic. He raised his hand and thrust it forward. Snowstorm filled with extreme cold swept toward Xiao Shuai and Athos. The physically robust Xiao Shuai could still withstand it, but Athos, being a wizard, could not hold on. The freezing temperature was about to encase his lungs. Xiao Shuai immediately stepped in front of Athos. To avoid revealing his identity as an earthling, he decided to wait until Athos passed out before acting. Unexpectedly, Athos managed to hold himself up and apologized to Xiao Shuai. "I'm sorry, I was too selfish." Saying this, he took a wand and stabbed it into his own chest. To prevent his body temperature from continuing to drop, he resolutely chose to burn his internal magic. Athos told Xiao Shuai to promise him that he would live, no matter what happened next. As soon as the ice wall cracked, he should run out quickly. Without waiting for Xiao Shuai's response, he charged toward the Lich. In the face of the Lich's puzzled gaze, he threw several wands embedded with magic cores into the air. A series of intense explosions erupted immediately. The Lich swiftly dodged, instantly escaping the blast radius. But before the thick smoke could dissipate, a deafening dragon roar suddenly echoed in the area. Then a massive level 52 fire dragon appeared before Xiao Shuai. Xiao Shuai stood frozen in place. He never expected that Athos was actually a descendant of dragons. The Lich, upon seeing this, erupted into maniacal laughter. Dragons have the ability to gain experience by killing enemies. If he could capture Athos and dissect him, he might just create that thing in advance. While the Lich was still lost in delight, Athos unleashed a dragon breath attack that struck him squarely. The Lich was knocked back by the ferocious force. Even with Athos's significantly enhanced power, his attack was still insignificant in the Lich's eyes. Seeing that Athos had revealed his dragon identity to save him, Xiao Shuai no longer cared about his earthling identity and decided to draw his sword. He instructed Athos to be careful, leaving the rest to him. At that moment, the Lich launched several ice blades at Xiao Shuai. Just as Xiao Shuai was about to draw his sword, Athos used his body to block the ice blades for Xiao Shuai. "Are you trying to die at level 5? The Lich scoffed, raising his hands in mockery. A dragon would be foolish enough to protect a human? Then a storm of ice spikes appeared in the sky. They rained down on the two like a dark eclipse. Unexpectedly, Athos shielded Xiao Shuai with his body once again. Before their mission, he had promised Xiao Shuai that he would protect him no matter what danger occurred. As the ice spikes fell like rain, Athos was ultimately pierced through, turning into a bleeding porcupine. Xiao Shuai never expected that Athos would go to such lengths for a mere promise. Yet even severely injured, Athos continued to apologize. "I'm sorry, I wish I were stronger." After hearing this, Xiao Shuai smiled in relief. "Are you really so worried? Is that promise so important?" At that moment, the Lich leapt into the air, condensing a massive ice sword behind him. A young dragon actually developed feelings for a human? Have you lost your mind? He then swung the frost giant sword down at them. At that moment, Xiao Shuai gripped the sword hilt and dashed toward the giant sword like lightning. "I told you to leave it to me. This trash I can take down with one sword." Then, under Athos's anxious gaze, he began to gather energy. With a body that shot up like lightning, he charged at the Lich. The Lich was somewhat surprised to see Xiao Shuai jump so high. He mocked him, wondering what a level 5 newbie could possibly do. Then with a simple horizontal slash, Xiao Shuai cut the ice sword in half. The fierce sword energy instantly sliced through half of the ice barrier. The iron-like barrier was unexpectedly shattered into pieces. As the dust settled, the Lich was broken into 108 pieces, scattered all over the ground. Seeing this, Athos's eyes widened in disbelief. "You old trickster, you were hiding this well. I even foolishly risked myself to protect you." Xiao Shuai replied, looking helpless. "I wanted to act, but you kept stopping me." Anyway, we both hidden our identities, so I guess we're even. Suddenly several sticky tentacles shot up from the ground. In an instant they tightly bound the two of them. Meanwhile the scattered pieces of the lich began to make cracking sounds as they reassembled. Seeing this, Athos quickly explained to Xiao Shuai. The lich's body is composed of magic. Physical attacks have no effect on him at all. At that moment the lich toyed with a shard of ice, emitting a creepy cackle.